A huge shout out to Billy Kills for supporting the channel on Patreon. Verazol the Split Current versus Gargos Vicious Watcher, Temmet Vizier of Naktamun, and Teysa Karlov. Looks like a pretty sketchy hand, but we can go Myriad Landscape, cracked on turn 2, and get out an Arcane Signet quite easily. Yeah, it's slightly better than it looks on first inspection. Couple of turn 1 plays in the form of Wayfarer's Bauble and Basilisk Collar. We're just going to get down our tap land and pass. Then the Judester cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble up against some friends of the channel. The Judester on Teysa Karlov. And then a couple of patrons, Billy Kills on Temmet. And BD Juggalo on Gargos. Mindstone from Billy Kills now. And Gargos getting down a Gaia's Touch. Getting down an additional land with that. And then it's round to our turn. We get a Disallow. Let's just go for the Ancient Tomb and crack the Myriad Landscape straight away. Grab ourselves some blue mana with this. And Burnished Heart from Teysa Karlov. And then Kills going in for their commander, Temmet, and equipping that with the Basilisk Collar straight away. And then it's Rampant Growth from the green player. Alright, what have we got here? A Hunting Wild, search for 2 forests. We can't kick that. I think I would like to set up trying to kick that, so let's drop the forest. And the Ancient Signet, or Arcane Signet, with Ancient Tomb. And then it's Sakura Tribe Elder. And I think we're just holding up Pongify and pretending to hold up Counter Magic at this point. Chromatic Lantern. Then cracking the Burnished Heart, they're getting quite ahead on mana now. That is 5, 6, and they'll be on 8. And then on Kills' turn, the Temmet swinging in over at the mono green player. With that, I think we'll forego the fact that there might be some Swiftfoot Boots over here. And we'll just crack the Sakura Tribe Elder for a forest. And then just finishing the turn off with a Cloud Blazer, draw a couple of cards, gain a couple of life, they go up to 6 in hand. Everyone doing a nice job of ramping here. And that takes Juggalo straight into Gargos Vicious Watcher. So the question is, do we go in for Pongify now and try and have Gargos fight something over here? Or is that just going to encourage an allegiance between these two if a deal's struck? I think we'll leave the Pongify for now. Alright, a Lightning Greaves isn't terrible. We can get down Lightning Greaves and then go in for our Verazol and try and have it stay in play for a while. I'll put an even number of counters on it, so X is 2 here, because we want our Verazol to leave play if it has not enough counters on it to copy something. So we don't want it going down to 1 counter and just sitting on the board, in other words. And this way we get to hold up the Pongify as well. Solemn Simulacrum coming in for the Teysa player, and I dare say they would get down Teysa here so that they'll draw a couple of cards with Solemn when it dies. And yeah, deciding to go for their commander. Azorius Signet now for the Azorius player, followed by Wayfarer's Bauble. And cracking that straight away. Now let's hold priority during Juggalo's turn and hope that they don't do anything crazy with Gargos. Might be able to get a 2-for-1 with some kind of aura here. Okay, Rishkar's Expertise. Yeah, feels bad, but I don't want them to draw a bunch of cards, so we'll go for the Pongify in response to that. They will get to fight something here, but not our permanent because it has Shroud. Deciding there to target the Temmet, and then they sacrifice their enchantment for a couple of mana, so maybe they have Heroic Intervention, Withstand Death, so gaining Indestructible, so they will get the Rishkar's Expertise, and they'll get to fight something else, so taking out both the commanders here. So not necessarily going the way I thought it was going to go, but it does mean that all three of us likely have our eyes on Gargos now. Not only because he's drawing a bunch of cards, but also because he's getting rid of commanders over here. Oh, and then they... I wondered how the Return of the Wild Speaker hit the graveyard then, but of course they get a free cast with Rishkar's expertise, so drawing even more cards with Return of the Wild Speaker. They went up to 17 and played a land, so... Oh, actually it was 18 and then they played a land, so anyway, down to 16 with the Spider Umbra. So it's going to be really hard to get rid of Gargos. Getting rid of the Cloud Blazer, by the way, the Lightning Greaves is going to do a lot of work for us. And this is why you want some kind of pacifism effect in your deck, if your colours will allow it. I think every colour except for red allows for it now. Anyway, fighting the Solemn Simulacrum with the Rancor targeting the Gargos. And with everyone tapped out, it might be a time for us to go for Consecrated Sphinx as opposed to the ramp. And the Gargos goes in at Billy Kills. So that'll be 11 points of commander damage. Okay, Heuristic Study I don't think we're going to need. If we're going to go Consecrated Sphinx, we'll probably have to block this thing, assuming that it fights the Verazol. Because we'll put the Lightning Greaves on the Sphinx. I think we just have to try and get an answer for the Gargos. So let's go like that. And that triggers Dragon Fangs. I don't know what that is. You may return it from graveyard to battlefield attached to a creature that comes in with a bunch of... Oh, it's CMC, not power, so 6 CMC or greater. Doubt they're going to enchant our Consecrated Sphinx with that. So let's go Greaves onto that to try and protect it. We'll probably lose our Verazol at some point and might be forced to block with the Consecrated Sphinx, but we'll have drawn a bunch of cards by then, hopefully. So with a couple of white players at the table, you would hope that they can exile here, and that gets around the Totem Armor. I think that just cares about destruction. Yeah, if it would be destroyed, then it isn't. So hopefully the white players have some exile or a Dark Steel mutation, Imprisoned in the Moon, something like that. Oubliette from the black player. Drawing some lands from the Sphinx. And Teysa Karlov coming straight back into play. Followed by a Doomed Traveller, which will give them a couple of spirits on death. And a Cruel Celebrant, so they've obviously gone for an Aristocrat deck. Unfortunately, Teysa will likely die before any of their other stuff because Verazol is targeted. Or Gargos even, not Verazol. Even more mana for us, and the life gain from this might be relevant, but it's more commander damage we're worried about. Well, Billy Kills, tapping out for something, and it is Kiora bests the Sea God, so they'll get a blue Kraken token, which Gargos can also deal with. So let's see how many spells Gargos can be targeted with this turn. Even more lands for us, so we pretty much just drew into mana. Cleared 6 cards off the top, 5 of which were mana, so Consecrated Sphinx did us some good, if nothing else. Extra Planar Lens coming down now, and we do have Snow-Covered Swamps, that's why I include these. A lot of players tend to go for these Snow-Covered Swamps, or forests or whatever, under the Extra Planar Lens, because most people don't run Snow-Covered Basics if they don't need them. But I always run them just in case someone gets down Extra Planar Lens, and we're actually going to make use of the double mana with some of our basics here, potentially. There we go, Primal Surge, so that might be the end of the game here. Bear Umbra coming down first. In fact, if they're going to just cycle through their whole deck here, then I'll probably just wait for them to get into something that isn't a permanent. Oh, and they actually seem to whiff there quite quickly, surprisingly. They got themselves into a Soul of New Phyrexia and put a Dragon Fangs onto that when it came in. Also got an Overgrowth and Wild Growth both going on the same land. It was a Vines of Vastwood that broke the chain, by the way. Now let's see, we want Mana Crypt. And we also want to start drawing into something that isn't mana, because we got into another land there. Let's see, we'll go for Hunting Wilds, I think. And that is Kit, so the Verazol will trigger. We will remove a couple of counters from that and get a copy of Hunting Wilds. Grab ourselves some forests for the double mana. Now, unfortunately, these are lands for the rest of the game. I don't think it's until end of turn. They become 3/3 creatures and are still lands, so yeah, that's they're going to be very vulnerable, unfortunately, but we'll still take advantage of the spare mana. Let's go for Rhystic Study. Might have to use the Krosan Grip on this to keep anything from becoming indestructible, although it's exile that we care about anyway. Throw down a Shadow Spear as well. Throw down the Rogue's Passage as our land for the turn. And like I said, we just need to hope that we actually draw into something decent. Let's equip our commander, because we'll probably just throw that away the first chance we get. Alright, well, just even more mana off the top. This time it is a land and Zendikar Resurgent. We've got more chances to draw with the Rhystic Study at least. Sir Conrad the Grim from the Orzhov player. Paying for the Rhystic Study. And another land. Alright, there's some card draw at least in Sylvan Library. I mean, we're drawing plenty of cards, just need to stop making it lands. Let's see where the best the Sea God goes. Oh wow, tapping all of our stuff. That's surprising. So trying to encourage the green player to go over here. Yeah, I don't suppose it is all that surprising when I think about it. Let's go for a Disallow onto that then, because we really don't want the mono green player coming in at us. Now Temmet being cast from the graveyard with Embalm. So I think that comes down as a 4/4 zombie. No, it just comes down as a copy of itself, so it's still a 2/2. And then Staggering Insight onto the Kraken. +1/+1 and lifelink. Whenever it deals damage to a player, draw a card. And I think everyone's paid for Rhystic Study so far. The enchantment lands and now the equipment going on to his commander. Now the 10/10 goes in towards the Orzhov player, probably because he knows that they'll just block with the Doomed Traveller. Doesn't really hurt anything. And they'll get to gain a bunch of life here. Now, surprisingly, doesn't seem to be blocking it though, so I might be feeding him a card here in an attempt to do something about this board. We will get to draw a couple from that. Alright, getting into stuff that isn't lands finally. A Whelming Wave will... yeah, that'll get rid of everything. For a turn at least. Let's see what the green player has up his sleeve. Alright, getting into a Swan Song now as well, so we've got some counter magic that we can sit back on. Nothing with Kicker, surprisingly. Skyshroud Claim from the green player. Darksteel Plate is indestructible. Doesn't really matter about that because they've got the Umbras anyway, so that doesn't really do much of anything. It's Hexproof or Shroud that we need to worry about at this point. Don't know if I mentioned before either, they've got Vernal Bloom down as well. That might have come off the Primal Surge, I can't remember. But they've got a lot of mana per swamp, or per forest that's in play now. Blanchwood Armour. +1/+1 for each forest, and they get to fight something. Only 2 cards left in hand. They do pay for the study, as you would expect, with a surplus of mana. Deciding to fight one of our lands, so it might be worth going for the Whelming Wave anyway. If they're going to fight these things, we'll tap it down for 3 mana. Might use a Krosan Grip. And when that goes down, it will trigger the Sir Conrad twice, thanks to Teysa Karlov. And now a Vigor coming into play as well, down to 1 card in hand. If they swing in with this and damage is prevented, it'll get even bigger with plus counters. Currently a 24/21. Gonna leave the Krosan Grip for now. I might try and make use of these during my turn and then blow it up before it gets around to their turn again. If we Whelming Wave, they'll have less mana to redo everything. Let's see who they want to swing in at here. Yeah, coming in at us, half expected that. Do they have Trample? They do. What gives it Trample? We've got the Rancor giving it Trample. Yeah, we might have to go for Krosan Grip onto the Trample Enabler. I think they've only got one thing that gives it Trample. And when their Gargos attacks, it will untap all of their lands thanks to the Bear Umbra. Yeah, we've got the Soul of New Phyrexia coming in at us as well. The 3/3 Ape goes in at the Judester. So let's go Cross and Grip onto Rancor. Rancor will go back into their hand, because when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, that's what you do with it. But now their commander only has Vigilance and Reach, as well as Totem Armor, but we're not killing their commander here anyway. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12 mana just from the forest alone. That should be enough to do everything we want to do next turn, so I'll throw away a forest here. And we'll take 7 from the Soul of New Phyrexia. The land goes down, of course, and triggers Sir Comrade again. The Rancor goes straight onto their commander again during the second main phase. And the Gargos, when it's been targeted by Rancor, is going to fight the Sir Comrade. Oh, and there's a Path to Exile, so he did have something after all that. There we go, must have drawn into it last turn. Path to Exile going onto the Gargos, which makes me think twice about the Whelming Wave now. And we're going to get a hell of a stack here. Alright, the last card in hand was a Blossoming Defense to give it hexproof, so still going for the Whelming Wave seemingly. Rhystic Study triggering a bunch of times there. Gargos is going to fight multiple things here, targeting our land and the Verazol. Forgot the name of our own commander. So Verazol, a land, and the Sir Comrade is going to go down here. And during all the fighting, of course, the Vigor is putting a bunch of plus counters on the Gargos. Let you know what it is after the stack has depleted. We drew into a Reflecting Pool during all that, by the way. Someone didn't pay for a Rhystic Study trigger. I think it was over here. They did have 2 mana held up. And now deciding to go in for a Vampiric Tutor. So they must be going in for a board wipe of their own, I would think. Merciless Eviction, something like that. Now this time paying for the tax. Okay, so what did it end up as? It is now a 38-35. Too risky to leave in play, I think. They might get down a Rogue's Passage of their own, although they are in top deck mode now. A Forgotten Ancient for us. Might get that down, I don't know yet. Need to work out how much blue mana I need. I don't know if to play a blue land or a basic forest for the extra mana that we'll get from that. I think we can start things off with a Zendikar Resurgent. So that means we've got double mana from the islands. So there is reach here, isn't there? Yes, that has reach, so no point swinging in there. Let's go in at Billy Kills. He did try and tap down all our stuff, so we'll go in at him. And I imagine with this, Billy Kills will take control of our mana doubler, the Zendikar Resurgent. But yeah, I think we're just going to make use of it this turn, so let's go for that Whelming Wave. And there we go, everything going back to hand. The Rancor will go back to hand when it falls off, unlike all the other enchantments. That's good because we got rid of some Totem Armors there. So let's see here, we get 4 mana there. So we'll go in for the Forgotten Ancient. That will draw us a card. And I'm hoping that people will be less worried about us now that Consecrated Sphinx isn't in play. Getting to our first kicker card in a long time. Skyclave Relic. So let's go for the Shadow Spear onto the Forgotten Ancient. Hopefully it will get big enough to be able to block the big octopus here. We'll put the Lightning Greaves straight on there. And then there's every chance that we lose our double mana, like I said. So we'll hold up. We'll go for an island. We'll hold up the double blue for mana drain and a Swan Song, so might as well just get down the Sylvan Library. We'll use that as a Miri's Guile. Probably not going to draw extra cards with it unless we can gain a bunch of life. And there we go, discard some fetches, a shock, Reflecting Pool, and a basic forest. The Judester is going to draw into the card that they tutored for. I would think that that was a... I don't know. I don't know why they tutored when they did. They could have waited until the end of our turn. I assume it was a board wipe, considering when they tutored. In fact, they probably tutored because we were about to untap blue mana and they didn't want it to get countered, so I dare say that that's what they were going for. Well, down comes the Teysa Karlov again. We're going to start getting these plus counters on the Forgotten Ancient. Might draw the odd card with Rhystic Study. Then the Cruel Celebrant coming back in as well. And the Doomed Traveller, as you would expect. We will draw a card here because they can't afford the Rhystic Study. Don't have quite enough toughness to defend against the 9/9 Octopus, or Kraken. Keep calling it an octopus. Going to Hydroid Krasis. So hopefully they don't just swing the Kraken in straight at us. I will block it if they do that. Let's see if they take the mana doubler away from us. Might have tempted them with Sylvan Library. Alright, surprisingly, gaining control of Teysa Karlov. I thought our mana doubler was done for there. So they've obviously got a means of something dying. They want to gain double triggers off of it. Maybe they just don't want Judester to have it. And just one more spell will have us able to block the Kraken. I dare say Kills knows that though. Oh, and of course the Kraken gets a buff anyway, thanks to the commander, so up to a 10/10. And swinging in at us as I assume they would. I'm not going to go down to 1 with a Mana Crypt in place, so we'll have to block here. Oh, and it can't be blocked, of course, because the Temmet says, yeah, I thought it was just +1/+1, but it can't be blocked either, so yeah, we'll just have to take it and hope that we don't get bolted next turn. They will draw a card over there. So I'm half tempted at this point to not counter anything that the green player does, because it seems as though eyes might be on us anyway. Does this deal damage to everyone? Yeah, it's each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, so we're in a pretty precarious position here. Should have countered the Temmet, seemingly. Anyway, Vigour coming down. Yeah, totally forgot about the unblockable there. Don't often see Temmet. And that will trigger the Dragon Fangs, which gives the Vigour double trample. But they're going to get their commander down this turn, I imagine. Oh no, putting the Dragon Fangs onto the Vigour. And there's Gargos. Our opponent's all playing around the Rhystic Study, so there's no chance of us getting into some removal for the Mana Crypt. And there we go, that's the end of us. Gargos will fight the Cruel Celebrant. Yeah, this triggers on itself dying. So should have countered the Gargos as well. I was just hoping that we'd stay in play for another turn, but apparently not. And yeah, even if I thought they were going to go for that, I think I would leave the green player alone here. I don't like the idea of trying to butcher someone's turn when I've left the other 2 players alone. So let's see who wins out here. Just getting down all the cards that they had out already. Don't think we've seen a new one yet. Bought Umbra, going on to the Gargos. And getting rid of the Temmet, not getting rid of the Kraken just yet. They don't have quite enough power, or quite enough toughness even. They do now that the plus counters has gone on there. But no cards in hand anymore. Giving the Vigour indestructible. Yeah, I dare say that's what they tutored for before our Whelming Wave, Merciless Eviction. I think I mentioned that before. So getting rid of a lot of good creatures here. Getting access to their Teysa again as well. And there's only 3 cards in hand over here, 4 over here, so seems as though it's going to be a long one. Because everyone's still at a decent life total. Getting down Teysa, Orzhov, Scion now. Mindstone being cracked by Billy Kills. And then cracking the Myriad Landscape as well for some more mana. And then embalming their Temmet. Now let's see what Juggalo can do with all of this mana they've got. First thing they do is go for their Gargos, which triggers the Dragon Fangs. And that goes onto the Gargos to give it trample and +1/+1. And then it's Rancor after the Darksteel Plate has been equipped. Temmet does have Death Touch with the Basilisk Collar, by the way. And no cards in hand, so passing over to the Orzhov player, who gets down Revel in Riches and a Lightning Greaves. Then the Azorius player gets down Sovereign of Lost Alara, and then Cackling Counterpart going on to the Sovereigns. So they'll get a token copy of that can be buffed with the Temmet. But Temmet buffing itself here and making itself unblockable, because it is a token when it's embalmed. So swinging in with Exalted, and going in at the green player, by the way. And then Billy Kills finishing off the turn with a Mimic Vat. And now Juggalo tapping down into a big X spell. This is the problem if you leave a big green player in play with a bunch of extra mana. I know we're the Simic player, and typically you get rid of the Simic player when you've got the chance, but we do know that BD Juggalo is a pretty spiky player. Let's see what they're getting into here. Yep, ripping a Genesis Wave off the top. X is 36 here. So they're going to get more than half their deck straight into play. Judging by the Primal Surge, I assume that there's a lot of permanents here. Yep, they get a lot of lands. A mana doubler in Zendikar Resurgent. They've got the Hammer of Nazan, some enchantments that give hexproof. The Enchantress card that draws cards off of enchantments coming in as well. Omnath. The Spider creature enchantment that makes spider tokens. Nissa makes more mana as well. Anyway, attaching everything all over the place. Shielded by Faith came down from Billy Kills as well, by the way. I must have missed that. But the green player is about to refill his hand with a bunch of Eidolon of Blossoms triggers. Hammer of Nazan going on to their commander. The equipment's going on to the Gargos, and now a Helm of the Host coming down as well, down to 7 cards in hand. Hammer of Nazan will put the Helm of the Host onto Gargos, so they'll get a copy of that. Song of Freyalise as well, looks like they've got it at this point. That will draw them a card. And Treefolk Umbra, just to make it even more difficult to get rid of. Fighting the original Sovereigns. And they do decide to put that under the Mimic Vat. Revel in Riches will trigger, as will Seasons of Growth. And now it's King of Colonia, which is a trample enabler, and it puts +1/+1 counters on the creature during the upkeep. They decide to put that on 3 mana Omnath, which can become huge, thanks to all the untapped lands. And now going into combat, they get another Gargos. And just deciding to swing both of them in at Billy Kills. He will block, but he probably goes down to commander damage here. And Judester will draw his card for the turn. And decides to call it a day there. So, yeah, there we go. Pretty commanding game from BD Juggalo. So yeah, it's a good game to my 3 opponents. Big thank you to them for playing. And to Billy Kills and BD Juggalo for supporting the channel on Patreon. Be sure to let me know if you want to see more from Verazol. Hopefully we'll have better luck with it next time. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.